Kuzuzangpo and welcome to Bhutan This Week, our weekly news magazine program where we take a look at some of the major stories covered over the week. I am Sonam Rinchen. In this week's edition, His Holiness the J. Khenpo graced the country's first ever Parents' Day celebration, which was held at the Institute for Language and Culture Studies in Thakchi. Prime Minister Tsering Tobgay says while the overall national debt has increased, the country's non-hydropower debt has come down by 5.6 billion nultrum. And the opposition says the government bypassed open selection procedures by directly appointing the new managing director of the Bhutan Broadcasting Service Corporation. His Holiness the J. Khenpo graced the country's first ever Parents' Day celebration, which was held at the Institute for Language and Culture Studies in Thakchi, Trongsa.
The students of the Institute for Language and Culture Studies in Thakchi began three-day Parents' Day celebration with much excitement.
Jembe simki chongdebe seda goiki pujin bomsi midi tsuna name same kaw pokto meba chena debe tenga chira bomsi midi tsukna jim nanan bendigi tenga chira name same de kadin jingi de kanza kido pakpachi sishundila aragi nosumlo tenga chira pam dendebe de pamlo kadi kasur samdigi ni momachi sishundila
totally gawal hab mire te ra sani jadi shimto de phamlu chatombe de anibe gyubere de kola inchi minchi tada kyche mola sishuda demzudi trangop se minubala chipigop se minubala phamlo de rangi jugi chumidi de ra member rawa di pham khachube pham dam didi begop de se khache sushunila.
At the celebration, His Holiness offered tashikada and sera to the senior citizens in Thakchi. His Holiness also launched a book on Parents' Day. Tomorrow, His Holiness will administer blessings for long life in Thakchi. His Holiness declared last year that from this year onwards, the descending day of Lord Buddha or Dilhabab Diche will be celebrated as Parents' Day. Compiled for Komal Kharka, Pematsuki for BBS News.
Her Majesty the Gyaltsen graced the National Geographic Society celebration of 100 years of coverage of Bhutan by the National Geographic magazine. Addressing the gathering, Her Majesty said that the essence of what was observed by Bhutan by the magazine 100 years ago still remains. Her Majesty commended the National Geographic Society for the noble efforts since its inception in 1888 to explore and bring to light the human and physical geographic of our world. The National Geographic magazine in 1914 published an article in its April edition written by John Cloud White, a political officer of British India stationed in Sikkim. Accompanied by fabulous images, the article titled Castles in the Air, Experiences and Journeys in Unknown Bhutan documented White's experience in Bhutan. His Royal Highness Jigel Ugen Wangchuk graced the textile exhibition in Lhinchi. This is one of the first activities under the People's Initiatives in celebrating 60th birth anniversary of His Majesty the 4th Druk Gyalpo.
His Royal Highness Jigel Ugen Wangchuk formally launched the textile exhibition in Lhinchi.
Rawanda Rantin, Majaragi Sungchok, Majaragi Shideda Chikten, Majagi Misegi Redenda, Benjo Gompetsu, the Shisham, the Kanyawa Jinjibe, the Denai. Myochogi, Dejalu, the Mapadi, the Gijapta, Gitepinidi, the Tempechins Mom.
Later, His Royal Highness interacted with the people and visited stalls filled with hand-woven textiles with intricate designs from across the country. PIGSA has been formed under the aegis of Her Majesty the Queen Mother Doji Wangmo Wangchuk to supplement and complement the government's initiatives for the occasion. There are 10 more events to be held within the next 1 year, while 2 main events are specifically planned towards attempting Guinness World Record for Bhutan for the first time. His Royal Highness granted Dokha to the public. Various entertainment programs were also performed at the exhibition. Compiled for Kingatashi, Hishingirup, PBS News.
To commemorate the 25th anniversary of Bhutan and Thailand's diplomatic relationship, a reception was hosted in Thimphu. Her Royal Highness Princess Chimiyangzum Wangchuk graced the occasion.
In addition to the 25th anniversary of friendship between Bhutan and Thailand, the reception was hosted also to celebrate the launch of the 68th birth anniversary of His Majesty the Fourth Duke Galpo, the 87th birth anniversary of His Majesty the King of Thailand, and to mark the 6th coronation anniversary of His Majesty the King. A 105-member delegation from Thailand, led by the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, is here in the capital to celebrate the auspicious occasions. The reception last evening was graced by Her Royal Highness Princess Chimiyangzum Wangchuk, the Prime Minister Sring Topke and other officials. At the reception, Her Royal Highness launched the commemorative postage stamps depicting Thai-Bhutan friendship. The reception was organized by the Royal Thai Embassy in collaboration with the Royal Thai Consulate in Thimphu. Cheers! Diplomatic relations between Bhutan and Thailand was established in 1989. The Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs called on the Prime Minister Sring Topke at the Gelong Sokang yesterday afternoon. The Deputy Minister is in the country till Monday.
As the Chief Justice Lempo Sonam Topge formally retired, a farewell ceremony was held at the newly constructed Supreme Court. Her Royal Highness Princess Sonam Dechin Wangchuk launched 3 books: The Building of the Supreme Court, Source of Law and Structure of the Supreme Court. The Building of Supreme Court is a book that unfolds stories of Bhutanese architecture fused with rich narrations of Bhutanese judiciary. Meanwhile, Source of Law is a book giving information about the different types of laws that are practiced during different periods of time. The overall national debt has increased, but the country's non-hydropower debt has come down, said the Prime Minister. Lenchen Tsering Topge said the non-hydropower debt has come down by 5.6 billion nultram. The total national debt as of September this year stood at 113.3 billion nultram.
The Member of Parliament from Bertsam Shongfu constituency in Tashkent questioned the Prime Minister if the government has prepared a roadmap for national debt and Indian rupee reserves. Wang Dinobu asked for an update on the status of the country's reserves. To this, the Prime Minister said the country's overall debt increased, but the non-hydropower debt has decreased.
용돈 배워진 대테rbum 직접 치다 차겔에 아닌 육동 주수기 대 아니 디 직동 테rbum 직접 게다 사숨루 대 야sen 야시 있으시니 대디 뚜루기 배워진 테rbum 두다 피 삭치 야sen 야시 있으시니 로치기 난균날로 대디야 마쇼 가라 lokmigi tondele mato te shankhan nam sami lele mindu seshuni kachim sawachin lokmigi polendi todo bachin nitong chusulu tachi shudozumi nitong chusulu te polen katichi duga sawachin te domdi terbum ngapchunga dunda changa de chime seshunila terbum ngapchunga dunda changa ta inlo nitong chujinalu terbum ngapchunga chida cha dunlu ma bab yasi seshunila Hema terbum ngapchunga dunda changa yumidi the terbum ngapchunga chida cha dun luma babyasi seshunila.
But the opposition leader demanded the reasons behind the decrease in the non-hydropower debt. The non-hydropower debt is mainly concessional long-term loans from international development banks.
로 레레기 바나루 니동 주실로 아님지 밥지 스미지 다도 되는 신기에 순한데 에스슈니 슈난데 아니디 가실레 땐디 때 마법 야암진 나치기 철식이 때 공펠기 라디수기 망일디수 다도 때파 땅 마수바 긴주디수 렘마수바 망일디수 줍 마수바 철식이 라 공펠기 te mangil disu te tu masuni digi ma bab joina te yamjin te negap sap siji sap sorry ma bab joina.
To these, the Prime Minister said, decrease in debt is because the government has paid off certain % of the debt.
Rupigi te polen lemisu mashotapchi seshuni. Debigi do chudu chubdin dechigi nankyunalu the SBI overdraft the terbum gutapchi seshunila. SBI ki overdraft. PNB nale terbum jida sanga tabnu seshuni. Dedilet taru jagagi te korangile wangzingi tewanale currency swap se terbum nga da sa jitabnu seshuni. Yongdom terbum chobge da sa gutapchi seshuni. Digi kie chamchigira terbum chi da sa dun sa gede chi me seshuni.
Prime Minister also said a working committee has been formed to draft a national policy on debt. Meanwhile, Lenchin Sringtokis said the government has reduced short-term borrowings and this has improved the foreign and rupee reserves. Today, the convertible currency stands at $879 million, up from $721 million last year. Lenchin also said the Indian rupee reserve amounts to about 14.3 billion rupees compared to 5.9 billion last year. Pemasuki for BBS News.
The members of the opposition party said proper procedures were not followed while appointing of the serving managing director of the Bhutan Broadcasting Service Corporation, Chring Wangchuk. They said the government had directly appointed the new MD bypassing open selection procedures.
The Bumdiling Jamkar MP said media plays an important role in a democracy. So it is important that affairs related to the media are conducted in open and fair manner. But he said the manner in which the new managing director of BBS was appointed has left the opposition concerned.
Open competition interview se tinalulu dijib disu be tele dendur gi tholebe te kara ngachira de debe teta ngoma dira debe jagomidi ta ngachira gi lap macham ni gi denlela dajugi nanaluru khora rawang be jani gi denlebe te debe lamlukchi debe du sishunibi ta datogi tega hebdolu ngachira teta ngachira duk chanda lezingi te yongchap dochindi
In response, the Minister for Information and Communications said the managing director was appointed as per Section 85 of the Companies Act 2000. Lempo said the section states that the CEO of the company is appointed for a term not exceeding 5 years at a time with approval from the shareholders. Lempo said the appointment was also made as per the guidelines to make appointments in government corporation. According to Lempo, BBS is owned by the state and that the government has full authority to appoint its MD based on the recommendation of the board of directors. He said the board of directors had submitted names of 5 potential candidates to the cabinet.
Dato yebe kesab gopen chojin de kore chirtangi seyen lagi nyamnyong dele jewa yebe chodupcho gachigi thele bero chodup chenchi imle jungi khatole kesab gopen chojin be ngejin be sar ke jesudi yanchadu logdi chachi shoajin dujungi khatole kesab gopen chojin dujanda lejingi kesab gopen chojin de sap kemi dinalu timle gewegi lachi bebo chalera men timda thidigi bebo I jejuni.
But the members of the opposition party insisted it is important to hold an open selection. Some even pointed out that a new board of directors was constituted before their term ended.
The mingadi tudalu gadebe tuiga sewigi dokpadiben tengachigi tato judilembogi katole the len seririchi sumaso seshunila somalu. The mingadi tudalu ngarahago dochibewachin disu chabda tango seshunila. Danselgi tole dajugi tolebe chayamlu chabda tango di mata seshunila. Minga 께속기 가톨레 투누 께속기 가톨레 때 중루 피누 때 디기 람루디벤 네누 대보다 찹라땅고비 람루디 만네베 세슈니라
company act nalu gadibi yuruta dari na duk journalism di jachale jacha dugshungi lotarishin du mangyulgi tholebe zinchung bemigi te dinaru shareholder mila dugi habki tiruila dugi hab misirgi tiruila dugi habki misirgi tirugi chombegi lede beros exambero gachira pedi beru du misir 캐세 삼이 가라기 니냐로 짜모토디기베 고갑 랭고비기 렌 초비기 티 고네 인시 슈닐라 다네 베오달루 땅 아직이 따와진 니냐루 슝기 카톨레 탄드레 슈기 랍 봄라 짭다누 시슈니 밍옴루 테 쪽쪽 민두세 슈살레 멤베 에세슈니 쪽쪽 위에 가라게 ngо시 밍옴딜로 녜 마랑바 테 나슈슈에 잘레 멤베 세슈니 소조랑 아치르게 럼루디 테 둠다지 단설 마저니디게 툭 잔다디 가듬지 카치위나 가라기 켄 테가치르기 테 미세 가라기 테 가치르기 개합기 중일레 세세로 타미기 레진지 베니디기 테 셰어홀더 세로 테 슈우메 슈우시미디 가치 미세메 테 미세기 켄곱디 럼루디 단설기 톨레 테 켄곱디 카치에세 테 슈니디 디메 세슈니
But the members of the ruling party said no rules have been bypassed.
Lamlukle gegeuti zadapule mindu seshuni laka saujin the duk janda lezin di the company chi benidegi tinalu shareholders labme shareholder di khaba ribabe sole proprietor di shungi benidegi the junglu the wanse du seshuni la
darigi theka hebdalu duk janda lezin di shibumbera te shungi lezinji imbale tendigi be te nawadi shungira nangobe se shunila te dibeola tendigi be te shungi namidi tato kyochap gopenchon kemidi te shungi nawada thidi imbe.
The education minister, who had formerly served as the managing director of the BBS, said while BBS is a public service broadcaster, the power to appoint its MD lies rests with the government.
This state broadcaster, government will always have to appoint and also have to fund, but they cannot dictate the broadcaster to do what they want.
But according to Home and Cultural Affairs Minister, the BBS is a company governed by the Companies Act 2000.
로교석이 말에 피미디나루 때 디나루 담트찬데 모토지비 교석이가 되어 배고비나 교석이 때 디스나루가 지기 디 랍잡미 디벨텐 디베가 저를 카툴레 중 카툴레 때로 말 교석이 말에 담트잡디베 나피미자 티디기 텔랭아 저리기 총례기 짜팀다 티디기 텔랭아 저리기 중원기 총례기 람텐두스 티디라 때 베베 모토지비기.
Lempo also said the report that a new board of directors was constituted before its term ended is not true. Sonam Lamo for BBS News.
Country's economic growth rate has come down from 5.07% in 2012 to 2.05% last year. The fall, according to the Economic Affairs Minister, is a clear indication of a troubled economy. Lempo Norbu Wangchuk said high current account deficit, unemployment rate combined with inflation rate and rupee shortage are clear indication of the country's troubled economy.
A high current account deficit of 24 billion Newton accounts to about 25% of the gross domestic product. The Economic Affairs Minister said not being able to generate adequate jobs is also an indication of a troubled economy. The current unemployment rate stands at 9%, added with an inflation rate of 8% and serious rupee shortage, which resulted in the suspension of loans for private constructions, followed by import ban on vehicles and furniture in 2012.
Year 2012 has been a especially difficult year, and that was during the time of the previous government. We had again the same problem of the current account deficit, and we were running into serious rupee shortage in our economy. So therefore certain policies were put in place and certain policies were then actually implemented, And today we are feeling the ramifications of these policy decisions.
Limponoboachu added the sluggish growth is also because of the late onset of the development activities in the first 6 months of the 11th five-year plan as the government was mobilizing and dispersing funds.
We have initiated what is called the economic stimulus plan, where we have started to initiate an injection of 5 billion nultrum into our economy in the form of improving the capital adequacy ratio for our banks, so that the banks have now the power and the capacity to again resume the lending. And the other part of the economic stimulus plan, of course, is the Business Opportunity and Information Center, where we are trying to promote small and cottage industries, wherein we are also trying to plow in 2 billion rupees into the economy. So this is one. And the other is the 11th plan now is in the second year, and thankfully it is now going full steam.
The Economic Affairs Minister, however, said that he is not overtly optimistic that the GDP will soar even at the end of this year, as it will take time to feel the impact of the initiatives. But he is hopeful that by next year, there would be a significant improvement in the growth rate of the country's GDP. Pemasuki for BBS News.
At present, sitting fees for Gyeok Tsokde, Jongka Tsokdu and Tromde Tsokde are different. In the National Council, some members called for a uniform sitting fee. The discussion cropped up as the House deliberated on the Local Government Members Entitlement Bill 2014.
Wang Dipotong MP shared there are cases where GUPs and Mangmis live far from their Gyeok offices. He said in such situations, GUPs and Mangmis should be given house rent allowance or provide a house near the Gyeok office. The Home Minister who presented the Local Government Members Entitlement Bill in the House was also questioned on the issue.
톰pen짬치 member 산내중기 대 가부다 대 망민일에 대 같이 침기 칸라기 뒤리 톱생아 지켜버진디 디답 대수도 주니라 디 중기가 됨지 자책 주담 난나 개진 난나 현자차차차베 난나 대 교환대로 중루잡에 같이 대선세 나고생 같이 주고 미라 대표달로 같이 팀딘달로 공기 침기 칸라디 톱세 개버진디 대 가됨지 난나 고라 중루자신나 다니 같이 개급지도 주니라
선의 중기다 갑다 만겨 또 가르쪽 집에 대 침기 칸라디 담지 톱당 옆에드는 그 야소버진 대답도 주니면서
But the House asked the Good Governance Committee to relook on the issue and will take final decision on the matter on Thursday. Pemal Hardin, BBS News.
The National Assembly decided to provide vehicle quota to civil servants, rather paying 160,000 nultrum in cash. The House also decided to extend vehicle quota to the members of the constitutional post holders.
In the third session of the second parliament, the Second Pay Commission recommended to monetize the tax-free quota to the civil servants with a lump sum amount of 160,000 nultrum.
사지 자집에 순리나디기베 데 록더라 ngar gaimbe shanibe de tutachichi se shunila.
Meanwhile, some of the members submitted to keep it optional to the eligible applicants.
때 동경아 자라 numkor tongsa sum 합지 땡아 저 롱아기 남콜로 때 뇨쇼비 나와 때 남고님의 se shunila. 때 동서 숨되지 남들어 집에와진 때 다음 질로 때 당아 자라 때 numkor기 때 테디 때 자셀랭아 자야 센탄디그레 베세 지루라 때 당이 고통으로 숨되지 땡아 자라 때 뇨쇼비 나와도 땡기빈 조이 갈래 때 테디고 때 추지시에 마당가 세티슈니비
라케르베 나마신 때 파송 추송 배워갈래 때 숑뢰기 구종도 때 니벤디기 때 망일기 돌레베 때 봄시다 죽주남 한바디 나다바신 디 갈루라 숑뢰 계고도베 로시오 토미기 디술뢰 계고도베 소에기 nen슈 좀 집에지 때 다레베오다 디 디냐마 가임베라샤 때 데보다 te zonta machu kanye michu be michu te tanjulu new masubachin di Kevin mi se labdusum chibe tane be jo wimela
ta dinalu achichi go yang ta be ta yang chi khona gi tamkhadi shabsum chi be wa chi shungi khonle te lalu chi ro te ta thiri bari bera kota di khora te to laglen thapni di khong cheni so wachin dia khong lu ko kap ti phi te le ro lalu chi tanga kota di ta dinalu tenga laglen thap mi chube tinga gi te nyomi chube so wachin te ro khong talam ta ja gi khong le be wachin ta tiru jigbum tong ta tukju de chi me di khong lu te ro top ni yep chibe debe shadap zum chibe wachin digi nam semi ta chi ko yang ta be.
Since the issuance of the revised vehicle quota rules in July 2014, the Ministry of Finance has issued import authorization to close to 900 civil servants, over 100 armed force personnel and to 5 constitutional holders. Yamasuki for BBS News.
Bhutan will continue to grapple with the shortage of health workers during this current 5-year plan. According to the Labour Minister, it is projected that there will be shortage of more than 1,500 health workers across the country. This was raised during the regional meeting on strengthening human resource for health in Southeast Asia.
The number of health workers increased to nearly 2,500 in 2014 from just over 1,100 in 2002. Limpo said though the number looks encouraging, the shortage of workers has not spared the health system. The staffing pattern of the Health Ministry actually estimates that more than 4,000 health workers will be required during this plan, but it is a number far too many. Given the current production capacity of different institutes, there will be still shortage of health workers.
The exit of health workers from the healthcare market due to reasons such as superannuation and voluntary retirement has become a matter of concern. Apart from these reasons, the health system also witnessed our active health workers separating from the civil service for reasons other than superannuation.
The key priority should now be given to retain health workers in rural areas and transform the health professionals' education. Lempo said other multitudes of initiatives to tackle the shortage of health workers are also being undertaken.
An effective human resource management information system for health that generates adequate real-time information can serve as an effective tool to overcome these issues and certainly help address larger policy and program challenges with respect to human resources. Currently, available systems are fragmented and countries must accelerate their efforts.
The 3-day meeting is being attended by more than 10 countries from Southeast Asia region. The meeting was organized by World Health Organization, Bhutan. Chetin Dupchu, PBS News.
The construction of a house in Shari Gyeok in Paro has been suspended after land record officials found the land belonged to the public. Although the land is claimed to require a skidoo, officials said there are no documents of skidoo being granted.
This cottage in Jishigang in Paro was found to be under construction on a land that belonged to public. Its construction was halted after the Gyeok administration asked to discontinue the works last month. The house belongs to Tenzin Tile, a retired land official. According to Tenzi, he had requested the land as skidoo back in 1994.
It is definitely public land, but I had requested it as skidoo. The land here was earlier occupied by other people and later given as skidoo to the people. I have not gotten the kashu yet, but I have been looking after it for many years.
Tenzitile initially faced no interferences or obstructions when he started the construction. But then works were stopped when the house was near complete. Sharigop Dago says Tenzitile had initially approached the Gyeok office requesting permission to build a temporary shelter, but he was later found constructing a cottage.
I sent a letter to the Chokpas to make a list on any cases of government land encroachment so we could look into it. So after investigating the reports, we found there was a house being constructed. So as per the rules, we asked him to stop the works.
Kabdagu says a total of 14 suspected cases land encroachment were inspected together with land record officials in the Dzongkhag. He says further action will be taken when they receive reports of the investigations from Dzongkhag administration. Compiled for Ishigase, Pematsuki for BBS News.
Well, that is all we have for you this week. Join us again next week for yet another edition of Bhutan This Week. Until then, it is goodbye from me, and I am Sonam Rinchen.